What is that?
That thing.
Why is it just red?
Because the green is what we already recorded. The red is what we are recording now.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. Forget it.
This is the intro. We haven't recorded anything.
I give up. We're recording the intro right now.
But we've already recorded?
Yeah.
It's confusing.
Even though I know you're joking, it's still annoying the fuck out of me.
If you were a villain, Brad, which one would you be?
Which one? Well, they haven't had the list yet. You're going to put this at the beginning.
Yeah, I know.
Self-righteous? Right? I'd have to be a self-righteous
You're
villain.
a global killer.
Because I consider everyone else civilians. A global killer? How am I a global killer? I'm only hurting myself.
Everybody, it's Brad. You're going to spontaneously combust one day.
I'm only hurting myself. And maybe you.
Oh, yeah, you're hurting me. I'm in severe pain.
I'm silent but deadly. Well, not that silent.
Oh, you're just like a flatulence?
Yeah.
I won't say the other word. I don't like the other word.
Why?
I just don't like it. I don't like that word.
That's dumb to not... Okay.
Considering the quirks that you have, I don't think you should refer to any of my quirks as dumb.
Well, just to pick the word fart.
Don't say that. I already told you I don't want to say it. I don't want to hear it.
What? Was it something growing up with your brothers, whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, fart.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was around crude people and didn't want to be that way, so I refused to talk like that.
Okay. Can I use the word jovial? Because I said it on the way here. I said I can be jovial, and then you took offense to that.
Yeah, I took offense to it because I've never seen you be jovial in my life. Not to the word jovial. Jovial is a great word. That's what's so funny about it.
Are you surprised that I knew that word?
No, I'm surprised that you think you can be jovial. When you look up the word jovial in the dictionary, it's not a picture of you.
No.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
Film Reverie. Take 63.
And action. Hello, Film Reverie listeners. This is Michael Beckemeyer, and I'm joined, as always...
Yay, by the balding Ewok.
Yeah, begrudgingly. Yay. Thanks, yay me.
Okay.
And today, again, we have our repeat guest. I think you're the only person that's been on our show
3 times?
There's only 2 other people that have been on our show 3 times. And this is is this 3rd time or 4th time?
4th time.
4th.
That's the 4th time. All right, we got to get some other of our repeat guests back on to compete with KOOGE. KOOGE, who is helping us work through some of our writing and storytelling, processes, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
Stuff we think about when we're writing stuff.
We're updating and sharing some stuff we learned back in the day that sort of influenced our writing, but mostly it influenced our... what do you call it? Our movie analysis.
Oh, I thought you said anal.
No, because that's... I think that's one of the biggest things KOOGE taught us and got it was he would always quiz us after the movie, like what character was that? What was this? What was that?
Yeah.
So he got us in the habit of analyzing the movie when we were done.
And whether you disagree or not, at least you've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's how you shouldn't just... To me, that's not how you should approach just watching a movie. That's how you should approach making one. People have it seems to have the illusion of, they just got together and they said some stuff and they shot it and then they edited it. But no, if you've done your job, you've meticulously thought about every frame that goes into your film. Yeah. And it's just that. So whether you agree, disagree, or have another method, at least you have a method. This is just ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So the last time we talked, we did the 13 master plots, and then we did 13 heroes in Hollywood.
Correct.
And now we're going to do the 13 villains.
Yes.
Which are, those are the bad guys, Brad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So how's it going, KOOGE? Is it fun just listening to us talk about you?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Let me just make a general comment about villains, and in fact, all the things we've been covering. Um, a lot of people want to know, well, how do you make a film, or for that matter, how do you write a book? Well, they're made up of elements, and each of the elements is an asset to the story. Now, there's no more valuable asset to a story than the villain. In fact, the villain is a more valuable asset than the good guy. Think of the Bible without Lucifer. It just doesn't work.
Or Austin Powers without Doctor Evil.
Or any James Bond movie.
Or any James Bond movie.
Because I was talking to Kujaatele the other day about the James Bond movies that I didn't like were the ones that had crappy villains.
Yeah, or My Life with Brad, without Brad.
Yeah, so you need a villain. In order to know how great life is, you need to know how crappy it is as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and on James Bond, if you don't remember the name of the villain, it wasn't a good James Bond movie. If you don't remember the villain, because James Bond without a villain is boring. In fact, Superman without a villain is boring. That's why he has to have supervillains.
Yes. But yeah, because Superman can do whatever he whatever his heart desires. If he doesn't have a villain to match that. Yeah.
Well,
and if you,
yeah.
Or if the villain can't put the hero in jeopardy.
Yeah, it's superior intellect or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Lex Luthor.
Yeah, like me with you.
Okay.
I could just flip-flop that back and forth constantly, yeah. But we basically have a list, or KOOGE developed a list. This is one of the first lists you came up with, right, KOOGE?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was one of the most important lists I came up with.
Right.
And I developed it actually about 25 years ago. And as we go through it, it'll be interesting. I had to revise it for this show. And it was amazing how Hollywood has changed the villains. In fact, how global politics has changed the villains. Like one of the things I'll point out as we go through the list is in the old days, the villains were rather simple. You know, they were like German Nazi types or
Russians
or racist types, etc. Or also Chinese were excellent villains. But what has happened?
Do the Chinese think so? Do the Chinese think that they're excellent villains?
Well, they know.
Have you run this list by them?
Well, they're no longer villains because this is what happened. China became a market.
Right,
Germany
right.
became a market. Japan, which was villains, they became a market. In fact, there are such big markets that now a lot of our heroes, even in the Marvel series, are Chinese or Japanese.
Yeah. Right, because filmmaking, I mean, movies, the international, like you said, market, I mean, that's how movies make billions of dollars now. They don't make billions of dollars in the United States. They make maybe $300, $400, $500 million. And actually, the rest of the world is where they make most of their money.
So are you referring to...
Is that what you're talking about, KOOGE?
Right, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But that's why we also get, and you will see, a lot of Arab villains, because they're not a market.
They're not a market.
Most of our movies are banned. In fact, I think the first Marvel movie ever to be shown in Saudi Arabia was Black Panther.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, let's go ahead and get to the list.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I mean, you're talking about the Japanese bad guys. We were discussing this the other day, but the Yakuza seem to have been one of the biggest bad guys. I mean, because I think number one is you have badass gangsters, which would be like criminals, outlaws, drug dealers, human traffickers, crime family, gangs, bank robbers, all that stuff, even dirty cops.
The Lollipop Guild?
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's a reason it's at number one, because the gangsters have most of the movies. There's so many movies with gangster bad guys, and I was telling Kuj, especially Yakuza, because in the international markets, there's so many movies. There are more movies with Yakuza bad guys than there are with Italian gangsters and all those other kind.
Yeah, the Yakuza are the mafia of Japan.
Yeah.
And they're sort of exotic. They're the type when you offend the head, then you have to cut off your finger or something. So that's one of the reasons you can tell a Yakuza they may be missing joints. But there's a culture and tradition. They're not just bad guys. They are bad guys with a culture. So it's not just going out there and just doing evil things. They go out and do evil things, but they maintain their culture. And the same thing is true when you're talking about the Colombian drug cartels or the Mexican cartels.
Globetrotters?
And, of course, The Godfather. It's not just the criminal organization. A whole culture comes along with that.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Godfather's one of those movies where everyone's a bad guy, but you kind of root for the guy who's the least bad.
Yes. Well, now what is starting to happen, you're getting movies where they're all bad guys.
Yeah.
Like for example,
Breaking Bad, or, well, that's a TV show, but...
Well, still.
Yeah.
Well, Pulp Fiction, or even The Hateful Eight. I don't even remember if anybody even lived through that movie, but everybody...
No, that's what they hated about it. Yeah, nobody survived Hateful Eight.
Yeah, nobody survived Hateful Eight.
That's why. That's proof that hate is not the answer.
Well, yes. Well, in fact, the way I look at Hateful Eight, well, we haven't gotten to that category yet, but they could be, considered a gang as well. Mm. But is the good guy is karma, and karma is a bitch. So.
Yeah.
So karma wins.
Okay, so organized criminal.
Any kind of.
What's the word? Not.
What?
I can't think of the word.
Well, while you're thinking of the word, I'll give you a list of people that fit in this category. And Tony Montana from Scarface. Like everybody from Kill Bill, I think they were all in a gang, weren't they in the Yakuza?
That wasn't Yakuza. It was like a sect. It was
a sect,
it was
kind of
It was a sect, but one of the members of the gang was the head of became the head of the Yakuza.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, any gangsters in the movie or mafia that you can think of, the Mexican drug cartel,
the old school, Little Caesar, Edward J. Robinson, and Cagney, White Heat.
Yeah.
White Heat. Yeah. Okay, so that's that. What's the next category?
I have a quick question for you, Kuj. You have Once Upon a Time in Mexico and The Departed. What does that mean, reigning villains?
And Once Upon a Time in Mexico, practically everybody's a villain. The CIA is a villain. I think that's in the... the CIA is a villain. The drug cartel guy is a villain. The
hero's a villain.
Yeah, the girlfriend, who's the daughter of the drug cartel, is a villain. So, I mean, every time the henchman for the FBI is a villain. So, the same thing with The Departed. If you remember, the police put an undercover mole in the gang puts an undercover mole in the police, and the police are really collaborating with the criminal, letting him do crime so that he can be a what do you call it?
One of the gang? Undercover?
He can rat out people
to
maintain his run. So it's reigning. That's why I use the term reigning villains.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, so number 2, we've got devil, like the devil, basically, and just everyone that works on his side or for him,
Everyone
warlocks,
on his side.
witches, demons, and
death.
even death.
Yeah, and death.
Well, because death is very prolific in movies.
Death is prolific. Yeah. Death has done some good work. Yeah.
Death is universal and is usually a villain, except sometimes in the case of Mr. Joe Black, he took a holiday. He took a holiday from being a villain to, just not being a villain, but just experiment with life, find out what it's all about. Yeah. But then, of course, he went back to his job because otherwise we'd become overpopulated.
Voldemort, the Goblin King and the Labyrinth, Witches of Eastwick, the Devil, demons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blair Witch, the Blair Witch Project, yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Straightforward, yes.
Now, we're not saying that all witches and warlocks are evil villains, because there are some good, there are TV shows and movies where there are good witches and good warlocks and all that. Just typically, they're the agents of the devil.
Correct.
Oh, vampires. Number 3 here. Vampires, Dracula. Werewolves and zombies. And those are separate from demons.
Yeah, I discussed this with KOOGE. Basically, because what they all have in common is that they bite or they feed on people, and they spread when they bite you, it spreads. Whatever it is, if it's vampirism, if it's werewolf, or if you're a zombie, you want to bite them, and then they get it.
So could you just say supernatural?
No, because that's a whole other category.
Whole other thing. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So tell us, why does Dracula get his own? Because I was saying, well, Dracula's a vampire. Can't we just say vampire? So why do you have Dracula separated there?
Well, Dracula created. Again, that's one of the cases where Hollywood really brought a particular vampire or a particular villain to the forefront. And Dracula was one of the first ones to almost have his own category. And he actually spun off a lot of these other characters, vampires and werewolves. But Dracula was, with Bela Lugosi, was the leader. And also, Dracula has an added element of sex. Vampires
seduction.
And werewolves are not necessarily seducing you. They will eat anybody and bite anybody. Draculas are sort of romantic.
Yeah, he kind of almost makes you want it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they prey on beautiful women as their preference. Now, zombies is interesting. I had to break zombies up into 2 categories because Hollywood actually changed zombies. Now, those of you young people that are listening, you think that zombies sort of came from some...
like George A. Romero. A lot of people think that, that's the first zombie.
Yeah, some biological thing infected them, and then you got zombies. But actually, the original zombies weren't biological at all. They were sort of magical.
Voodoo.
They came out of Jamaica. Not Jamaica, Haiti. They came out of Haiti.
Yeah.
Where they were practicing voodoo, and they would bring dead bodies back to life.
Use them as slaves, basically.
Right. And they didn't bite. I mean, they might kill you, but they didn't bite, and you couldn't become a zombie by another zombie biting you. Then, single-handedly, George Romero produced Night of the Living Dead. And he did not call his creatures zombies. The viewers decided they were zombies. And then he had to accept it in his future movies.
They just called them undead, right?
I think
right.
So.
Yeah. He never thought they were that. But even then, they went into a third category. which is what we call global killers, where they became the zombie apocalypse.
Like an outbreak, almost like an outbreak.
Basically, yeah, that's its own category later.
28 days later and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Global killer.
Those aren't but those are fast ones. The ones in the ones in Night of the Living Dead were sort of slow, and they halfway walked, and they weren't thinking as a hive. You just had to shoot them in the head, and you're done with it.
Yeah.
And you had to be a little bit faster.
Yeah, it's amazing that anyone ever had trouble getting away from them, because you just have to be able to walk a little fast.
Yeah.
Right.
To get away from the George Romero zombies.
There's something creepy about, though, the slow walking, confident villain that doesn't feel a need to run.
Yeah.
Right. Now you have zombies like that they're sort of halfway good, like Blade. Was a zombie and he's sort of reforming.
You mean vampire?
Vampire, yeah. That's right. He was a vampire.
Yeah, Blade is a vampire.
Yeah, Blade was a vampire, and then he became sort of a vampire killer. But he still has a lot of vampire in him.
Yeah.
As does, and of course, Dracula. A lot of movies is a good guy, especially the Blackula.
Blackula.
Yeah, I can't even put Blackula in as a villain, because he actually, is a sort of a hero. Even though he does bite people and turn them into vampires, but they're usually like prostitutes and stuff like that.
Yeah, people that
good
deserved
people.
it. Yeah, people that deserved it. Yeah.
Speaking of prostitutes, our next category.
Nice transition.
Evil mates or lovers or partners from hell.
Yeah.
So when we say evil mates, that could be a friend or a business partner.
Anybody Michael Douglas is sleeping with in a movie. Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And of course, Gone Baby Gone.
Yeah.
It'd not be.
By the way, I've never seen Gone Baby Gone. I own it. It's on Blu-ray, but I haven't ever sat down and watch it. Can you believe that?
It is, definitely a mate from hell. But also, it includes partners like Stark's partner in Iron Man 1, and of course Cain and Abel. That was probably the first one.
You have Obadiah Stane from Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie.
Right,
his business partner became his enemy.
Body Heat, which I know is one of your favorites.
Yes.
Kathleen Turner, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we got Alex Forrest from Fatal Attraction, Amy Dunn from Gone Girl. One of my favorites, Bridget Gregory from The Last Seduction. She was superb. She was superb.
You sound like you enjoyed that one a little too
much.
Oh,
yeah. Yes. She's those types that she's bad, but you think maybe I can get away with it.
I can handle it. it. Yeah. It's almost like crawling into bed with Dracula.
Yes.
I can handle it.
Yes, it is.
I can see. Well, you also have Loki, because I guess he's Thor's brother.
Right. Yes.
Detective Harris from Training Day. Was that?
Oh.
Who was that? Was that
Denzel Washington? Denzel Washington.
King Kong ain't got nothing on me.
Yes. Right.
Oh, so the category is not just evil lovers, but
partners, or friends, or mate.
Okay.
Just like in Australia, they say, "Hey, mate."
Someone who's tempting you over onto the dark side or something.
Like Masella and Ben-Hur were best friends. But one was a prince of Rome, Masella, and the other was a prince of Jerusalem. And they just got sort of twisted, and it was to Masella's benefit to send him off to prison to die on a galley ship. And of course, he came back with a vengeance.
And number 5, we have Foreign
and domestic
threats.
Terrorists, the deep state.
Cabals. Moles and spies.
Yeah. So, for instance, we have
Air Force One.
Arab terrorist, Black September, Air Force One.
Black September from Munich.
Yeah, Igor from Air Force one of the most chilling terrorists. I'm going to kill your daughter.
Yeah.
That sets up the confrontation. Let loose this terrorist renegade general, or I will kill your wife and daughter. And even after you let him go, well, I lied.
Yeah.
That type, and of course, Hans Gruber.
Yeah, I was just about to say he's my favorite.
Hans
out of everyone.
Gruber, greatest diehard villain ever.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the actor that played him was in Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, Snape, man.
Yeah, I was watching it the other day. That's how strong that character was drawn. Hans Gruber
he also played Sheriff. It's not Sheriff Nottingham, but he's in.
So.
He's in.
I think it was Sheriff Nottingham.
The Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
I will dig your heart out with a spoon. Why a spoon? Because it will hurt more. Yeah.
But still, Hans Gruber was his best role, and as far as I'm concerned, I can watch that movie. That is, by the way, Die Hard is considered one of the #1 Christmas movies of all time. At least it's the most popular.
Yeah. Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman is the guy's name. Yeah, the thing about Alan Rickman is he's like a classically trained actor.
Yes.
And he you can't look away from him, really. Even as Snape, even though the thing about him as Snape is that you hate him so much, but by the end, the story is so well crafted that you actually also feel for him. You're as torn as he is, because you feel bad because he had a shitty life, and that led him up to this point where he just was playing his part in the big chess match, and he knew that it was going to make him hate it, but he had to do it because that was his part. And that's how good of a guy he was.
Yes.
To be willing to be that bad of a guy so that the pieces will fall into place.
Right. And you didn't know until the very end of Harry Potter that he was a good guy. Yeah. Because he was a bad guy up until.
Yeah, man. Alan Rickman is so good. So good. But yeah, so Hans Gruber. Yeah. Man.
And the next category.
Well, hold on. We can't leave without leaving Michael's favorite villain, Silpa. From Skyfall.
Oh, Skyfall. Yeah. Well, actually, on that list, it's Hans Gruber. But yeah, the Skyfall villain is my favorite one from all the James Bond
movies. He was in the extra Mission Impossible movie, the first continuous one. The Mission Impossible movies are usually just self-contained, but he was such a good villain that they made.
Talking about Skyfall, though, that's James Bond, man.
Oh.
What planet are you on?
Oh, you're right. But isn't he one of those too? Yeah, I'm talking. But the guy I'm talking about I can't remember his name, but he fits there too, doesn't he?
Surprising.
In this category, he's a domestic. He's
a
terrorist.
Yes, but I can't think of his name either.
Yeah.
And since we weren't talking about him, I wasn't planning on bringing it, but you brought him up through your randomness.
Well, because he was awesome. And those last 2 Mission Impossible movies were great. And he was one of the reasons they were so good.
Right. Also, remind one of you has not seen North by Northwest. You've got to see.
I'm the one.
You've got to see Willem van Dammen.
What? Van Dammen?
The villain from North by Northwest.
It sounds like a weird curse. Van Dammit.
Yeah. I used to say
he's good. He's a mysterious terrorist.
That guy.
Probably from Germany or someplace, but they don't mention the name. Probably from Germany because it's Alfred Hitchcock, and he was sort of anti-German.
The guy Brad was talking about from Mission Impossible was Sean Harris, who played Solomon Lane.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that guy was great too. Yeah,
Solomon Lane.
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, North by Northwest, Brad. It's classic. I mean, you can't go wrong by checking out a Hitchcock movie. Like, broaden your horizons just a little bit.
Okay.
Now
Yes.
we can go to 6. The Frankenstein.
Speaking of broadening our horizons, number 6. Frankenstein's monster. By the way, let's be clear. Frankenstein is not the monster. Dr. Frankenstein created Frankenstein's monster. So
Okay.
this category is basically, man...
Man-made monsters.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's artificial intelligence and robots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this man creates, man plays God and creates life, and life destroys man.
Yeah.
And that was written by a woman, Shelley.
Mary Shelley.
Yeah. And but it goes way back. In fact, in movies, I think the first Frankenstein movie I saw, other than Frankenstein, was the Forbidden Planet. And in Forbidden Planet, that's like the science fiction movie that almost all science fiction movies are based on. You think you've seen, you think Star Wars and Star Trek are new. Go back and see Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
You know, they have like a flying saucer device to go to this planet, and the entire colony has been wiped out except for a man and his daughter.
Yeah.
And Dr. Edward Morbius. And the villain is monsters from the id. The id being the inner mind. That's how deep this movie is. It combines sort of artificial intelligence, alien artificial intelligence, the mad science, and Frankenstein in the one movie. Brilliant.
It's been so long. I think the last time I saw that movie, it was on VHS. So it's been a long time since I've seen that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Naked Gun was the captain. That's how old that movie is.
Oh, yeah, Leslie Nielsen.
Yes. That's when he was a Captain Kirk type person. He invented Captain Kirk.
So other examples in here are The Fly, Frankenstein, of course, HAL 9000 from...
Well,
what's the name of
let's
the
say
movie?
it's Frankenstein's monster, to be clear.
HAL 9000 from... Why am I drawing a blank on that movie?
Yeah. 2000 Space
2001.
Odyssey.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
2001, yes.
Yeah. Skynet, the T8, the T800, all the Terminators, all the villain Terminators from the Terminator movies.
Yeah.
Except for T-800 from the second movie on. He moved
Yeah.
out of the villain category into the hero category.
Yeah. Westworld, which I've only seen a little bit of.
And by the way, for people who might read this, I mean, a lot of these references are old, but V'ger from Star Trek, it's sort of a plot point, but it's short for Voyager. If you don't, so that's spelled correctly. It's V'ger from Star Trek.
Yes, but it's a Frankenstein because we invented it and sent it out into space, and then it came into contact with alien artificial intelligence and robots, and then came back a monster of all monsters.
Okay, so next category is global killers, including Armageddon, Andromeda Strain, Contagious.
I think it's Contagion.
Doomsday Machines, Rogue Asteroids, Zombie Apocalypses.
Yeah.
Apocalypses.
I mean, you got, like, the movie Transcendence. I think, what's his name? Johnny Depp. He started out a good guy, but once he turned himself into an artificial intelligence, he started taking over the world.
Yeah, I put him in the Frankenstein category. He turns into a Frankenstein himself. But the global killers is what I mentioned earlier. 25 years ago, you didn't have global killers in Hollywood. Now, you did in the sense you had War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
But those were like aliens that came in. But basically, people weren't destroying the world. Now, the monsters and aliens have gotten bigger, so now they're like destroying planets.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have a monster that can destroy the planet, it doesn't count.
Yeah, you
We
can't
used to
just
have-
you can't just have the towering inferno. You have to have the whole planet at peril.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Mothra and
Yeah.
all the it's not just kill one monster. It's got to be so that now becomes the category. And you can't just have one meteor coming that's going to destroy New York. You get that meteor is going to destroy the entire planet. And even when you look at WARP, WOPR, the War Operations Planned, I think, response.
What are you talking about?
The war games.
Oh,
Joshua.
Yeah.
I
That's
was
such a
trying
good
to
one.
figure out that the title is WOPR, and I was trying to find out what the R stood for. But I know War Operations Plan Response. That must be it.
So that's the category that has like 28 Days Later or World War Z
yeah.
that we were
Right.
talking about before. The zombies that just are like almost like a virus,
And
but they're actually
and it's
zombies.
weird because at first, like when we had this list before, I had to argue with KOOGE about how the movie Twister came out around this time when we were in school, and we watched all the behind the scenes, and they just talked about how they made the tornado or the Twister a character. They gave it a sound and had it, tried to make it, a villain. So I was trying to argue, how come Mother Nature has to be on the list? But at that time there weren't all of these movies, and now we got Rogue Asteroid is on a list.
Yeah.
And it didn't used to be. Villains used to be the antagonist, but
Yeah.
now you can have these global killers that are trying to kill you because it's so popular lately.
Well, again, in the past 25 years, originally, Mother Nature was not a villain. I mean, it was a challenge. You had to cross seas. You had to deal with hurricanes. You had to deal with volcanoes. But it wasn't a villain that with its own personality. But movies like Jaws, and now, what's that? Sharknadoes
Yeah.
have turned them into villains.
So that's number 8. Mother Nature. You say you have Mother Nature and man. What do you mean by that?
Well,
Or like man-made disasters?
Man himself is a part of Mother Nature, and some people miss that. It's like saying an outer space movie, not realizing that the Earth is in space.
Yeah.
But man is a part of Mother Nature, and like famously in the movie Bambi, for example, who's the enemy?
Yeah, man.
Man.
Yeah.
Man kills Bambi. In fact, there are some people that have never recovered from that. In fact, some people ban showing Bambi movies to kids under the age of 8 or something because it causes nightmares. That man would kill a deer.
A deer's mom. Yeah.
A deer's mom. Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be a Disney movie if it didn't have parents dying. Every Disney movie, there's like a dead parent, a divorced parent. Nobody's ever together in Disney movies.
What's up with that?
Yeah. And even in the new Kong movie, Kong isn't. I mean, Skull's Island. Kong isn't the villain. Samuel Jackson, man, is the villain.
Yeah.
And those little dinosaur creatures from underground.
Yes.
So in this category, we have meteor showers, asteroids, like a lot of the movies on the Sci-Fi Channel, basically. Earthquakes,
Right.
storms, volcanoes, droughts, famine, hurricanes, natural oversized predators, man. Which also not necessarily oversized, but oversized is better. But like the movie with Liam Neeson and the wolf. Was it called Wolf?
Called Wolf, yeah. Great movie.
Yeah,
The wolves were the antagonists in that movie. He had to not
Right.
get killed by them.
Right.
All right, number
So
9.
it actually was called The Fray.
The Fray?
Yeah.
That's it.
Once
That's
more
what it was
into the
called.
fray, into the last good fight I'll ever fight.
Yeah.
Both live and die on this day.
That was
That
cool.
was a great movie. Yeah. Sounds so good coming out of his mouth, too.
All right, so you mentioned Sharknado. Because, yes, we have Mother Nature, but it's worse when sharks are involved.
Well, yeah, they're sort of like, these are the supernatural and unnatural forces. A Sharknado, you couldn't put it in the mother category, in the Mother Nature category.
So
I can't believe in a category that contains the movie Aliens, you use Sharknado as your number one example. What the hell?
Yeah, well, aliens, ghosts, monsters, but it's basically supernatural or unnatural forces.
Right.
So, yeah, that's number 9. That's the 9th category. We didn't tell them
Aliens, and even though we all love Beetlejuice, he's the villain, basically. Bigfoot, the Bloob. I think that's the Blob. The
Blob.
That'd be a great movie.
the Bloob.
Body Snatchers. Critters, yes. Ghost. And giant ants, but a lot of us weren't alive when we had giant ants.
Oh, yeah, that was the movie called Them. That's another required movie. Because through the whole movie, you didn't know what was destroying things. And, of course, what was destroying things was man playing with radiation producing giant ants, and then giant ants about to launch and fly and turn the whole world into an ant colony.
So Gremlins as well, Martians from War of the Worlds, the Pillsbury Doughboy. What was it? The Pillsbury Doughboy from Ghostbusters?
The Stay Puft Marshmallow
Stay
Man.
Puft Marshmallow Man.
Not the Pillsbury Doughboy. It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Okay, let's change that in the draft.
Yeah.
By the way, Swamp Thing is a good guy. So we'll have to take that out.
Okay, we'll take him out. Take out Swamp Thing.
But the Thing, which you don't know what it's called. The Thing is a good name for the evil alien force in that movie because it's just whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's called in the original movie a vegetable. It's like a human vegetable.
Oh.
But it, sort of like takes the DNA from a character and can create a animated version of that, an organic version of that character. But it really isn't that character. It's that alien thingy.
Yeah, it's trying to survive on the planet, so it has to use the creatures that are on the planets, and it ends up making all these kind of mutated different forms of creatures until it figures out, okay, this is how a human's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's interestingly in the most people have seen the modern versions of the Thing, but the original version of the Thing was played by James Arness. Who was like a tall actor who played in Gunsmoke. In fact, he was the competition for John Wayne. John Wayne convinced him to go on television so he wouldn't have any competition.
Well, listen, you
That's
should
what he
try
claimed.
the television thing.
The newfangled.
This boob tube.
It's in people's living rooms. Don't you want to be? Yeah. All right. So number 10, we have psychos. That's the overall category. But inside the psycho category is sexual predators, serial rapists, which is almost the same thing. Serial murderers,
mass murderers, cannibals,
obsessed fans, and torturers. So I guess like the bad guys in the torture porn movie. What was it called?
Saw.
No, that's not.
Oh, you mean Hostel?
Hostel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the rich people paid so that they could torture people.
Yeah.
Those are bad guys. But I see you have what's his name from Black Panther, Killmonger.
Yes.
Because he's a psycho, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, he's a psycho. And
Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. That's the dude with the haircut and the
that's Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem.
He is so good. Yeah, he's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the same one. He actually, to me, this was his best movie. He was scarier here than he was as Silva in.
Skyfall.
I mean, it's just terrifying.
Skyfall.
Yeah.
I mean, he was because he was real. He was more authentic in the sense of a psycho killer, on any given day. Yeah. And of course, Buck. You remember Buck from Kill Bill?
Yeah.
He was the rapist medical assistant person with the pussy wagon vehicle.
Mike thinks it's funny that when you said the word pussy wagon.
Yeah, well, pussy wagon is hilarious. It's perfect.
It was part
Tarantino.
of the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've changed that. If you see it on TV, it doesn't say pussy wagon. It says something like pleasure wagon or something.
Oh, the pleasure wagon?
Yeah. Doesn't have the same impact. All those snakes are from Kill Bill. California mountain snake, the copperhead snake, the cotton mouse snake, and then the crazy 88, which is at least 88 killers that she has to take on.
Yeah.
So
you also have Freddy Krueger, the Joker from the Batman movies, and Hannibal Lecter, which is like one of the all-time best psycho villains
Hannibal
ever.
the Cannibal.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Marathon Man?
All right, I didn't.
I think a long time ago. Long time
Dr.
ago.
Christian Swell, which is like a German dentist that tortures by drilling into people's teeth.
Oh, you mean Steve Martin in Little Shop of Horrors?
Well, this one is that sent a chill through the entire audience.
Yeah.
And then your porn, in your
torture porn,
Dr. Joseph Hector, who connects people together and to create long centipedes.
Now there's I was going to ask you if you meant Human Centipede.
Yes.
I refuse to watch it. I will not.
Travis Bickle, probably the most famous alienated individual in movies.
Taxi Driver, which, by the way, when you watch the movie, you're following him as if he's the protagonist, but he's really not a good guy.
Yeah.
He's bad.
Yeah. You're
watching the villain, just like with, what's this other one we have here? Norman Bates. You know, he's a villain, but you watch the movie. See, that's one of those weird. I think that's one good argument for analyzing movies, because in order to know what to do to not be the same as other movies, you need to know what is it about all these movies that are the same, so that you can choose to have a Travis Bickle or a Norman Bates and say, okay, I'm going to have somebody who's not a good guy, but we're going to follow him the whole movie as if he's a protagonist. Also, Jack Torrance from The Shining. See, those are people, you think you're watching The Shining, and you think they're all good guys and good people, but they're really just a hair trigger away. They're just waiting for the,
all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just flip that one switch, and I'm going to go off on you.
Red rum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's Johnny. Yeah, that's one of the most. Of course, Jack Nicholson, is good at playing crazy people.
His face.
Yeah. Number 11, self-righteous villains, kings, tyrants, evil masterminds, fascists or political fanatics, corrupt officials, and environmental controllers.
Basically, any self-righteous villain. It used to be righteous villains, but we Kuj and I discussed it, and we realized, no, it's self-righteous. Like, if you look at Trump, it's self-righteous.
Right.
Because righteous means right standing.
And he's
so
also
if you're self-righteous.
I was thinking about him when you were talking about global killers because the whole EPA, environmental protection stuff that he's naysaying.
Right.
By the way, for all of you who love Trump, we're just joking. Moving on.
But I'll tell you, but in every single one of these guys is a narcissist. Whether you're talking about Bob Alexander and Dave, the Borg Queen in
Star Trek,
the Jack D. Ripper,
Yeah,
the
Lex
commander.
Lex Luthor.
Jack Nicholson again, Colonel Nathan Jessup from A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. That's my terrible.
That
Jack
was
Nicholson.
terrible.
Yeah. And of course, Dr. No.
Yes.
So, I have a question. I see Hans Gruber again. Do we have to figure out which category, or does he fit too? Because he was a self-righteous villain.
Yeah, I think he fits into both. You know, again, we didn't say this we didn't say two things in the beginning. One is a lot of these characters will fit in multiple categories. What we tried to do is pick which ones were the most definitive on their part. And I'm divided on Hans Gruber because he's definitely a self-righteous villain, but I think we also had him in the gang group. He's in a gang.
Well, he had to put a team together to accomplish his goal. I would argue that he's a self-righteous villain.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I would put. I think that weighs more heavily.
Yeah. It's more about him being the way he is than his group, or than his group working as a well-oiled machine.
And you also have Moriarty, which is a famous Sherlock Holmes villain.
Right, adversary. His
adversary.
main adversary.
And go ahead.
And Ramses too, from the Ten Commandments, definitely self-righteous. He wouldn't let the people go.
And most recently, Thanos, who wanted to save the universe by killing half of the people in the universe so they don't use up all the resources and everyone ends up dying. Mm-hmm. That's self-righteous.
Sounds like a plan.
And there's your Solomon Lane from Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
He's self-righteous villain. And of course, one of the most famous, Kaiser Soze.
Yes, from Usual Suspects.
Yes. Definitely self-righteous.
Yes. And the good thing about putting Kaiser Soze here is it doesn't ruin the movie if you haven't seen it. Because you don't know who Kaiser Soze is. Yeah.
Yes, that's part of the mystery of the movie.
All right, number 12. Unethical, rich, and powerful business people. There's so many movies about this villain.
Would you call, I mean, you're using The Wolf of Wall Street there as an example. Would you call him a villain in the movie?
Yes.
Because he wasn't...
He was unethical. And remember, first of all, one of the keys in Hollywood is people that, hit beautiful women in the stomach. You can't get away with that.
Slap in the face, hitting them in the face.
Yeah, hitting them in the face, hitting them in the stomach, take drugs out of various parts of people's bodies, and, of course, steal from old ladies and orphans. Generally that puts you in the villain category.
Yeah. So Mr. Potter, Old Man Potter from It's a Wonderful Life. Your
favorite movie.
Yeah.
Just a crook.
Yeah.
Always scheming on people. And Gordon Gekko from Wall Street.
Yeah.
By the way, Jordan Belfort from The Wolf of Wall Street is a real character.
Right, yeah, he's based on a real guy. I like how you didn't even mention a movie, but you just said oil companies.
I mean, it is a villain. There was Steven Seagal.
Just I can't even categorize this as just oil companies.
Steven Seagal did a whole movie about fighting an oil company.
I mean, do you remember the only movie that oil companies were good was Armageddon, and that's because Armageddon was bad. And in fact, I remember John Wayne did a movie too where they were drilling in the ocean, but that was back in the days when that was good.
Yeah.
What is
cigarette companies too?
Yeah.
Hard for them to be good guys.
You have Spectrum here. Do you mean the cable company? What are you talking about?
Spectre. That's Spectre.
Oh,
Spectre. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll fix it.
That's from
However,
James Bond.
many people will consider Spectrum a villain.
A villain, yes, that's why. I think it was a Freudian slip there.
Yeah, especially people that have worked with them in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
all right. Now, speaking of government,
like me, he's talking about me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our number 13 of the top Hollywood's top villains
Is the us government and politicians.
The us government.
What is that?
It's U.
Oh,
U.
US.
Dot S.
Oh, U.S.
Dot.
Okay. I thought it was okay.
No.
The us government.
The definitive movie you have here is the Post.
Yeah.
That's a good recent.
Yeah, the Post, because of the whole Watergate thing. Actually, that wasn't Watergate. The Post was.
It was. The Post was the Vietnam War. It turns
Vietnam
out
War,
that,
right.
that the Vietnam War was a conspiracy on the part of several. You know, when you have conspiracy movies, one of the reasons they work is because it turns out there were government conspiracies, and the Vietnam War was a government conspiracy in the sense that the Pentagon figured out very early that they could not win a land war in Asia. However, nobody wanted to be the first president to withdraw and lose a war. So they kept lying about it and putting in more troops and more troops. And the person that is like playing a game of poker where you put more money down to protect the money that you put in previously. But eventually you get caught with a cookie with your hand in the cookie jar. Yeah. And the person that got caught was Johnson, and the person that caught him was the Washington Post.
How about JFK? The movie. I don't think it's on here, but in the movie JFK, government. It's not even the government is government is a villain because everybody is a conspiracy in that one.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Mostly the government is being accused of.
Yeah.
Right.
Conspiracy.
Yeah.
All the king's
it's hard
men.
to figure out. Yeah, it's hard to figure out who's the villain in that movie. Yeah. It's again everybody's the villain.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really come to a conclusion.
Yeah, and then there's All the King's Men, which is the Watergate. Hold on. Is that All the King's Men?
Yes.
Yeah. All the King's Men.
All the King's Men. Woodward and Bernstein were the reporters, and all the king, the chief of staff, all of Nixon and his entire crew were actually criminals, and they got caught by the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Now I see you have Barry Seal from American Made. Is that the Tom Cruise character Tom Cruise played? Right.
Yeah,
which is interesting because he was a protagonist, but he was paid by the government to be a villain, which is weird.
Yeah. He was. The story is so scary. It's true that the government paid him because they want him to train Contras and the CIA was running operations in the El Salvador and places like that, and they needed a place to train Americans, and they used a drug cover, and then he got caught. Barry Seals got caught by the government people that did not know that he was a government agent, and they had him. They were about to throw the book at him. I mean, he got raided by like the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration, and the Tobacco and Arms. You know, a variety of different people, and they thought they had him, and the White House called and told him, let him go. And they sent a plane for him, flew him to the White House, and he met with Oliver North, and then they set up that deal.
That's crazy. Did you know that story when the movie came out, or did you read?
Oh, yes.
That was a famous story of history?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. He's one of the ones he's the one that got caught, you know. And now I didn't know all the details of the story, but I was very familiar with it. I was shocked that they made a movie out of it. So yes, he's a bad guy in the sense he was doing bad things, even though he was doing bad things for the government, but the government was doing bad things. So hence the category, the U.S. government and politicians.
I want KOOGE to give us his conclusion. He's got a good wrap up to the whole thing.
Yes. Well, in conclusion, well, let me give you a final thought, because one of the most interesting of all characters is the character called King Kong. And for those of you that are, and you can explain how they do this, but they can actually see the article that I put together on this, and I have pictures. And one of the pictures I have is the original poster of King Kong. King Kong was conceived by the author as a villain, a jungle savage gorilla that has a unhealthy desire to possess this white woman, and he's the king of the jungle. And he would remain king of the jungle, except she escaped and he chased her, and finally they blew him away on top of the Empire State Building.
That's what happened when you chase a woman around the world.
Yes, especially if you are a gorilla.
Yeah, a gorilla.
A black gorilla.
Yeah, a black guy, yeah.
Now, when they released the movie, they were expecting that they had created a global killer savage animal. And to their shock, that wasn't the villain. The villain turned out to be the U.S. government. See, their idea was the U.S. Army Air Force would kill this huge gorilla that was going around chasing white women and eating white men and creating such havoc. But the young people of the time, who were the ones going to the movies as they do today, they identified with the gorilla as, and consequently, they actually went back, changed the poster, and they re-edited the movie. The movie you see now doesn't have the scenes of him stepping on white guys and eating them. It makes him a kinder, gentler animal. And of course, ultimately, they've changed him into a good guy. So if you go to that movie, The Skull's Island, he's a good guy. So I ended this piece with a quote from the man who shot Liberty Valance, he gets credit for killing a villain in the movie, and the movie is this reporter talking to him, and he said something that was very interesting in the context of our topic. After he learned the true story, he burned up his nose. And he said, in Hollywood, this is the West, sir. When the legend becomes a fact, print the legend. What's important about that is this. Just because you created a villain or a character, you cannot necessarily kill that villain. You can't own that villain. They develop their own character. I think I might have mentioned before, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle tried to kill Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty because he wanted to become famous for more than that. He starved because nobody would read anything he wrote because they wanted those two characters. So he had to bring them back to life.
Yeah. People and the things that they're familiar with.
Yeah, your heroes and your villains may be your words, and thus your children, but you don't control them. They develop a life of their own.
Well, that's it for our talk on the 13 villains. Thank you again to KOOGE for really all the work he's done in the last 25 years to put this stuff together, and for putting up with putting up with Brad asking him questions, annoying questions,
trying to destroy it.
That KOOGE has no intention of changing his mind on. Yeah. So, thank you for that, KOOGE. If you want to catch KOOGE, he's on Facebook.
Kujaatele Kweli.
We'll give a link.
I'll do the link.
Yeah.
It's a hard name, too.
You want to catch us? We're at filmreverypodcast@gmail.com. I'm Becca Meyer on the Instagram and Twitter.
I'm Balding Ewok.
The Balding Ewok on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And that's it for this time. We'll see you again next time. Until next time, go make something, and we'll see you soon.
The end.
And cut.
Now that's a wrap.
Right. Yeah, I can't say that's a wrap. That's your thing. I have to say and cut. All right. Film Reverie Podcast is a production of Super Mega Ultra Entertainment and is produced by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. And visit filmreverie.com to listen to past episodes, and be sure to click like or subscribe wherever you find us. That's it for this time. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Film Reverie.